This episode of Super Pulp Science is brought to you by the Shame Trilogy, written by me, Lovern Kindzierski, and illustrated by John Bolton. It's available from renegadeartsentertainment.com.
Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how a genre gets made. I'm here with my very special guest, Lovern Kindzierski, and my pretty regular co-host, Justin Curry.
I'm not suffering anymore?
Well, I don't know. You feel like you've been looking good lately,
Ah.
right? You don't look like you're suffering. Lovern is a writer, an artist, a colorist, a longtime scion of comics, and he's here to talk to us about all kinds of different things.
Good morning.
Yeah, so welcome. I want to jump right into something today, which is something we talked about on the elevator ride up here.
Yes, we did.
I mentioned that wouldn't it be interesting to talk to Lovern about how, and this is how I said it, comics is like a litmus test where you can watch the changing levels of printing technology just rise up right along in real time, which is what I suggested. But Lovern quickly corrected me with the following
I said
tidbit.
it's not so much real time as a kind of delayed time because of the nature of profits. Comics would look at the cheapest way for production. And back when, I think even when I was still, when I first started in comics, they had the old metal rotogravure printers. And what they had done was they had gone out and scoured the nation, and they had found I believe it was a printer in Chicago, I can be corrected, who used to print telephone books.
Oh, wow.
And they went and they had the comics printed there.
To our younger listeners, a telephone book is
God.
a big book filled with numbers for all the important phone numbers in your area.
Yes, and if you were a Herculean strong man, you could tear one in half. Nobody else could.
That's right. I would stick to tearing the TV guide in half.
Yeah,
Yeah.
works for me.
So phone book printing. This is at a time. No, but okay. So for those of you who don't know Lovern's work, one of the things he's maybe most widely known for is his work as a colorist, but also in changing how coloring went from a 4-color process to a digital process. You were right there on the front line of that change.
I was the front line.
Yeah. So,
Well, my cousin and I were.
how do you feel about telling us that story? Is there a short version or a long version? You can tell
I
it
can-
any length you'd like.
I can do a short version. It was when I first started as a colorist, what the system was like much like a sewing factory where people are allowed to take home gloves to sew together at home. You're paid per glove. Well, in comics, you're paid per page. So you don't get paid to do the whole thing. You get paid a page at a time. And the industry was such that the colorist would get is Xerox still happening?
Xerox is a thing.
Yeah.
For the younger listener, that's a way. It's like photostat, but better.
So I would get a photocopy of on an 8.5 11 piece of paper which was the printed size comic book page, with room on each side, so that I could color the book, and then I would write the number, which was the breakdown of the colors by percentages. So I would color the page, and then I would have to number the stuff, because it would then go from me to somebody who would take it home.
So hold on, before you jump to that next step, for those of us in the digital era who are used to just dragging a JPEG off of the internet, saying these are the colors I like, and sampling it with the little dabber, when you talk about registering the colors as percentages, you want to break that down?
Everything was done by hand back then. So when I did my hand painting on it, it was again, and it didn't go out electronically. It went FedEx and to New York, and then from New York it went to New Jersey to a place, And what they did was they had, there was two schools, but basically what they had is they had a plastic sheet for each color, and that would go over top of the artwork. And they would, in a lot of cases, they would use stuff called ruby lith, and they would cut out the things. And there were 3 shades, 25, 50, and 100% of each of the colors of cyan, magenta, and yellow. And they would use those to color the books. And so it would go
these
down.
Would be like set gradients, and so you'd be working within a set gradient. So
Yeah.
you would know that you could only ask for 25 or 50 or
Right,
100. Okay.
right. They actually sent, when you became the colorist, you got a colorist package from DC or Marvel or whomever, and in it there was a sheet with the colors on it, and it was, like a open comic book printed out, and so each color was there. On each color it would say whether it was Y2, which meant 25% yellow, or Y3, which was 50% yellow, or Y, which was 100%.
And so all the characters then would have color. I can see now here, then there'd be a color guide so that Captain America's costume is always the same blue.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's always the same red.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there ever any oopsies? Like, because I am a person with messy handwriting, so like sometimes a 1 and a 2 are hard to tell for me.
Not from that. Mostly the my concern as an artist was I would do what I thought was an attractive piece and send it off, and they would interpret it. Now, where everything was flat and followed the lines, it was great. But if you got artistic, like I did, and I did a shadow, well, chances are they wouldn't follow the contour of the face. They would just go zip.
Just make a curve.
Yeah,
right?
and I'd look at that one, and I wouldn't get to see that until the book was printed.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you've laid out a proper contour.
Yeah.
Right, and they're just saying, it's faster if we just slice.
Oh yeah, because they're
because they're cutting it out physically out of that ruby lith.
right, and so it depends on the skill of the person with the knife.
Right.
Also,
Justin's face trying to
it's like doing what you do with a knife, and
But
sheets
per
of-
page, and like per plate as well. Like they have to cut out. Yeah.
three. There was 3 levels.
Yeah.
For each color, so cyan, magenta, and yellow.
Yeah.
Just later, when there was a more expensive printing and there were prestige format books, they added another layer to that, so that there was 25, 50, 70, and 100. And that's the books that I came into. And they wanted more artistic stuff done in that. And my father and mother referred to me as a shit disturber.
Okay.
So when I got into the industry in that, and we're working on these things, I actually called the person who was doing the separations and said, "Why can't you do this?" And the fellow who I called was Murphy Anderson, who had a
Dare you, sir?
Murphy-
Question how it's been done.
Oh no! Murphy was like, I was wondering if anybody would ask about that, and he said, yes, we can do it, but the publishers don't want us to because we charge them extra per page, and there's only, and they will only allow so many extra charges per book. So then I knew, I can do airbrush effects if I lay it out. And so Murphy Anderson and I worked out how to do it.
Oh, so you would have like a budget of effects. So you had a special effects budget in each comic.
Almost nobody did because nobody phoned up Murphy and asked about it. And if you were talking to production would tell you, no, you can't do that, because everybody was running a budget. The ridiculous thing was the amount of money that I was getting paid to do this was, I believe the starting rate back then was $15 a page.
Wow.
That's why some people would color a book overnight.
Right.
and it would and it was a mess.
And it would look like that, but
But they knew it was going to be flat with no extras in that.
How can you teach such drivel? These people are here to learn, and you're closing their minds before they even have a chance.
I actually didn't start out doing color guides for DC Comics. I started out painting pages for First Comics, which were following the model of the bande dessinée, or the European books, which were done from a blue line.
now, are those painted layers, those would go onto like a vellum or a clear layer, or is that right into the art? Like how did the reproduction?
Oh, they would take the Rubylith sheets,
Yeah.
and they would go to the printer, and they would take a graphic arts camera, which has a screen popped into it, and the screen was 25%, 50%, whatever percentage. So they would pop a screen in and take a shot of the yellows, the 25s and the 50s, and they'd have to combine that so it would go to a stripper.
Oh my gosh.
Which yes,
I'm rubbing my face so hard at the labor involved.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And they paid the bare minimum for the labor, so the costs were way down, because the joke was that all of DC's comics were actually colored by the housewives of New Jersey.
Yeah, wild.
Yeah.
So, okay. What brings you into that field? Like, I hear this list of steps of how to make a colored comic, and I immediately, the magic of it remains, but my will to accomplish anything evaporates.
Yeah.
Right? How is it, or in that way, oh man, there's so many thoughts going through my head at the same time. So number one, very obvious why the colorist was so revered in that time of comics, even though the average person didn't know what the heck was going on.
That's an interesting concept.
Because when I look
colorists
back,
being revered.
Well, so I'm really,
because we definitely were
not in the time. But when I look back, so for example, I'm a big fan of old pulp books. I look at a lot of Golden Age stuff. I look through online archives all the time. And you can start to, even though the colorist is rarely credited, if ever, in those early books, you start to see within certain publishers the people they're leaning on often to get certain effects out of the color that the line art is just completely leaving out. You know, they have some pretty substandard line art, and then the colorist is the one pulling all of that together. And you can just, if you look at, once you've sort of looked at 1,000 issues of a Golden Age publisher's comics, you start to see really the colorist is the one holding that together. And so people who are looking at Golden Age comics are starting more and more to talk about who was the colorist that brought this book together, who was the person that set these.
No one knows in a lot of cases.
I know.
Because the first comics that were coming out were done so cheaply that often the printer who was printing it would set up the colors on the press.
And just wing it.
Yeah.
So whoever some old pressman would be. Yeah.
And he would know that grass is green, skies are blue, Superman's red, yellow, and blue.
Yeah. And just wing it.
And they would go. And that way it was, and if it was an obvious sky, then you could do the blue. And if you didn't know, 25% yellow, let it go. And then...
Oh, that's so funny, because I was just looking at a whole bunch of Yellow Sky books the other day, and I was that's amazing. Oh my god. Okay.
And then,
dear listener, I'm nerding out right now. Just come along with me on this journey.
Oh, and then Marie Severin came along, and she was working in the bullpen at Marvel on doing color and stuff like that, and she was a brilliant colorist, but she was also a brilliant artist. I don't know if you've seen some of her work, like her Hulk stories that she drew, amazing.
Maybe.
Her brother is John Severin, who's one of the gods out there.
And so typical that, I would know his name, but not hers from that era in comics.
And if you saw, if you were looking at a comic and there was a figure that was not well drawn, Marie would edit that. And how she would edit that was she would color the badly drawn figure or badly drawn foreground, whatever it was, RB, which was 100% blue, 100% magenta, which was almost black.
So just drop in a proper silhouette over top of everything.
Yeah,
right?
and she'd just look at it and go, yeah, that doesn't work.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so suddenly, computers. And I mean, that's a euphemism because nothing was sudden really about the computer age.
It was a battle.
Yeah. How do you go from that world to being at the forefront of saying to Marvel and DC, hey, you know, they invented this thing called a computer, and I think we can use it to color comics?
I talked to the, again, my shit disturbing. I found out who the production manager was at DC Marvel, and I called up and said, can I talk to you? And talk to them about what was going on. And there was a company in Ireland that was doing what the Housewives of New Jersey did with computers. So what they were doing was using a vector program, and they were dropping in flat colors, and they could do it faster than the Housewives, and they produced better film cheaper. So DC was starting to experiment with that, and the Irish were approaching all comic publishers because they thought, we can own this market.
Yeah. And for the dear listener wondering what the vector in its basic form of explanation is a shape that you can draw in the digital, sort of on a digital surface that can scale. You can scale it up or down, and all the dimensions remain the same. That's the key feature here, is why it was useful.
But then it was a limitation because the color could only, you couldn't take an airbrush and airbrush like a physical airbrush would. You didn't have programs that did that. You had to have a program where you drew the shape and assigned the color to it. So it was
a little more rigid. There wasn't as much
oh
play.
God, yeah. The early paint programs were bad.
Because what would they have been designed to do? They wouldn't have been designed, like you were taking something off the shelf and saying, I can use this to color comics, but that's not what it was originally designed to do.
No, I'm not sure what I'm guessing the original vector programs were designed to create probably
mechanical engineering stuff.
Graph
right?
design
Stuff like
type
that.
stuff
Yeah,
where
right.
it needs to be rigid and grid based and
Right.
not much play. So probably
soup can labels and
more,
such.
probably more typesetting kind
Yes.
of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
Definitely typeset.
Yeah, more for type and very basic graphics, but in no way artwork. I'm guessing.
Right.
Which
So-
you have in common
Yeah,
with Lovern, using vector that in no way was intended to be used for making artwork,
it's true.
to make a whole career. Huh. I wonder if you guys touch if the universe would implode.
Only if Steve Olaf was also holding hands.
Okay, we need that one more link in the chain.
Yeah.
Okay, so still, if I'm the guy answering that phone and I have an entire production line that works, why would I take a chance?
And that's exactly what they told me. Yeah. I said, that's true, but I'm going to go out and do this, and I would just want to be able to show you this stuff. And they said, okay, but meantime, what about this and this and this? And so I started working on books that were computer separated. And they, particularly Bob Rozakis at DC, talked to me about it because he said, you have this background of, I used to be a printer for about 6 years.
Right, yeah.
Plus I have a degree in graphic design, and so they wanted somebody like me to pioneer this stuff because they had been working with some of their standard colorists who looked at that and went, how the hell do I do that?
Well, right, and you would be part of like a bridge generation, basically, that would have been trained in graphic design in the original, quote unquote, air quotes, over the original hand-based models, who also now is using computers and can talk to both sides of the production line.
What are you thinking? How do you feel? You?
When you're talking about color separations, what's the difference between, at that time, a computer color separation and a hand-separated color? What's the step that you're leaving out with the computer?
Well, the computer, with the computer, that you didn't have to go and take photographs of each.
That step is gone now.
Yeah, so that's gone.
Oh,
It's
I
the film
immediately
just
am
so
more interested in making comics again.
right. So now, but what you had to have back then was a machine that you could put your file into, and that would spit out film, and that was about a quarter. Well, it was about anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 for one of those machines.
Wow.
So that's why the big company
And this
in
would have been
Ireland
the
could
80s,
do that.
90s, 80s, late 80s,
80s,
right?
late 80s.
Wow. So in late 80s dollars, that's like $1.5 million today, right?
Isn't it $1 trillion now?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's wild. So you brought them samples then and said, "Here's what I could
No.
do"?
What I did was I got together with my cousin Christopher Chuckry,
Yeah.
and we went and we interviewed some people, and we found out how to make a business plan, and we made our own little telephone book of a business plan for our company, which we christened Digital Chameleon. We were going to originally just call it Chameleon, but when we went to register the name in that, all the chameleons in the world were taken. So we said, so my cousin said, well, what about digital? And they fed it into the machine and said, no, that's okay. So we became Digital Chameleon.
Yeah.
And so we had that, and we went out and we priced what it was, and to have a seat. So what I mean by a seat is, remember how big the monitors were back then? I think they weighed 2,000 or 3,000 pounds. So they were huge. So you had a huge monitor. And did you ever see the first Wacom tablets?
No, I don't think I've.
They were about that thick, and they were big and heavy. So
Like
all of this
5-inch
stuff is
thick Wacom tablet.
nah 4.
Jeez.
And so you had to have our tablet and stylus, and we had to have the monitor, and you can imagine you couldn't just put it on any kind of desk. So we thought we might as well be professional. So we looked at these desks that were made for computers for drafting for architecture and that. And so we got their catalogs, went through that, looked at this, figured our whole place out and that, and we looked at it, and we needed to have about $50,000 per computer, and we wanted 2. That was not counting the $400,000 machine to make the film.
Right.
It was not counting the scanner that we had to buy, and we had none of that money. I had just graduated from university. I think that my first year out of university, I earned $7,000. So we had no money.
Right.
So we started going to banks, and banks said, "Oh,
You're going to color comics.
has anybody else ever
done this?"
Done this?" And we said, "No one in the world." And they said, "Oh, you like in Canada?" No, in the world. This has never been done before. At which point they would pull out a wooden stake and a cross and drive us out of their offices.
Right, they're interested in doing more of what makes money, and not taking chances. So I've said many times on the podcast about how I feel like we're in a great time in history with this democratization of art. Like when we're talking, what I mean by that is stuff like this. The laptop that is sitting in front of us, right, which is like a few $1,000s, does everything that all of those machines combined almost.
Yeah.
With those hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's only...
It's got a calculator on it too.
That also has a calculator on it. And this is just going back only as far as the 80s. Like that leap forward to the quote-unquote average person having access to creative output.
Yeah.
That's astounding to me. Okay, so we still haven't figured out how anyone thought this was a good idea. We all use it now, so we know the end of the story.
No, I shouldn't say no one did, but we had a big hurdle to get over in that we had to show them that it could be done. We had to have the computers. So we had to find investors, and we found investors, and we bought the equipment in that. And we were, I think we were really smart about where we went to start it, in that our investors one of the guys that was the money guy had been a printer. And he had actually worked with Richard Cumley on the Captain Canuck stuff.
And of course, someone who's in printing, the moment they see the time saving, they start totaling up the money and man hours.
Oh, yeah.
And they can see that bridge happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So he said this is a good investment to his partners. And one of his partners owned a graphic design firm in the city, which was like the typesetting firm in Manitoba, because he was the only person who had the equipment that produced the quality and the type of typesetting that the government wanted. So he had big money in that, and so he actually gave us a whole corner of his building, and we went in there, and we were like the freak show there for 3 months.
Well, and I think what's important to point out to the listener is that the world of printing is really an arms race of technology.
Yes.
Every year, every printer, and like we deal with Friesens regularly, and one of the things we get is a quarterly report that says, here's the new printing technology that we're using now. Like they are constantly letting their service know that they're keeping up with the times, right? Because the minute you slip,
Yeah.
right?
Well, especially Friesens, because they're again they're on the cutting edge when you get picked to do something as big as Harry Potter was.
Yeah.
That's you're competing on a world stage.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so Marvel and DC, at what point do they show up and say yes?
They just I talked to Bob at DC, and he said, you've got to give us some stuff in that. So we did our first experiments, and the first month was abysmal because the computing was so slow then that we knew we couldn't do work to production schedules.
Oh, how frustrating that must have been. Oh, we can go so much faster. Oh, no.
It was like, we set this all up, and I would set up a 6-panel page, and I would put the flat colors in on one panel, not even doing any modeling, and then hit save. And then I'd go down the hall, go to the washroom, put the tea on first, so the kettle on first, go to the washroom, come out, the kettle would be boiled, I'd pour the tea, and maybe grab a cookie out of the cupboard and come back to my desk and sit down and finish the cookie while I was watching the bar still going.
The obvious. Okay, the dear listener cannot see how uncomfortable Justin is right now.
There's still some files that I have to do that though.
Yeah, but not many.
Not
and
too
usually
many.
we're crushing down 120 pages.
Yeah, that's true. It's usually a book file that's
gigabytes.
over 100 pages and full of all kinds of crazy things. But
We take so much for granted.
we do.
Tell us more.
You'll never get credit for my discovery. Who's going to believe a talking head get a job in a sideshow?
After the first month, we went, we're dead. This won't work. We have to wait for the next generation of computers, and when's that going to be? Oh, it's now. We were amazingly lucky that some people were unlucky. A bunch of guys from, I believe it was from Apple, were kicked to the curb, and they went out and they started a little company called 68,000, and they built what I saw was like, there may have been other things out there but at that time that was the first tower that I saw. And we looked at that and got some specs from it through a shop in town, and we ordered it in and set it up. And the setting up of the computers back then was bizarre. Like, we had to have a tech come in, and he had to be grounded. He had a wire to the rad in our room to do the work on it, and we had to go and get we had a good air conditioning system, but we had to have
Because they get so hot, those old computers.
we had to have a humidifier in the room, but we couldn't have just any humidifier. It had to be one of those cool ones that mists it was like crazy. But they set this up, and I put the first page up, And I did the first panel, and I hit save, and it went save. And I was like, wow.
The future's here.
Right, now we have to do a test. And because we were working with a graphic design firm, they found a job that was going out. And so we sent just an 8-page flat out to them.
So you tested on ad copy. You were cutting your teeth on short-run jobs, basically.
No. We snuck our test files on the back of another job.
That was being printed, yeah,
yes,
I see.
so that we didn't have to pay for it. Well,
Excellent.
we paid very little for it because it was a big run.
We've talked about using that trick on big printers even today, right? To print in the outside edge in the trim space. Yeah.
Well, in this case, we just added. They were running a 8-sheet job through. We just asked them to run 9, and so we didn't pay for the setup for the presses or anything like that. It was just straight, and we already were working with them, and we got a good deal on it.
And again, that's your experience with the actual production line.
Yeah.
Right.
So we did that, and we had stuff that we went around, and we flew out to New York, and I had meetings with the production guys at Marvel in DC, and they liked it. They liked it a lot.
Now, was it frowned upon that you went to both companies?
No.
Now, there's another thing, I think, for the dear listener's sake, the 80s, 90s absolute rivalry that you saw in print between Marvel and DC, did that happen in the offices? Was that rivalry a real thing between the actual offices?
Well, like in any good high school, it depends on who the students are.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Fair point. Okay, so you show up with your samples, and
production looks at it and goes, I can't believe this.
Like they didn't believe it was real.
Right. So then I talked them through it, showed them the breakdown, and they said, okay, well, we can't make this decision, but we can recommend you. So then we go down the hall to talk to the publishers. And the publishers go, well, we don't have anything at that time. And I love the phrases, my people have told me that can't work, so bye.
Right.
It was like, oh, thanks.
Now, do you sense, or do you think that was just ignorance or fear or a combination of those things? Like you were basically coming in there with a briefcase full of firing an entire production line, in a way, from their perspective, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I not the entire production line, but yeah.
Save the ones you like. So at what point did you get the break? When they saw it was cheaper, I imagine.
My agent, because I had to have an agent back then to work in comic books, had a connection to Stan Lee, because he used to work at Marvel as setting up the direct sales market. And so
your friend, not Stanley. I think
my agent.
Our listener will know.
Yeah, Mike Friedrich.
Yeah, okay.
So Mike found out that Stan was out of Marvel at that time, but he was messing around with a lot of stuff. And so I think, I believe it was for the Gary Gygax, or the
like the D&D guy.
Yeah, and they wanted to do some kind of comic book thing or other, and they were doing a small run, little piece of thing just to see, throw it out there, see how it's received in that.
So wait, Stanley worked on a D&D comic? Is that what you're telling me?
He was the connection to it. I don't think
we have a scoop here, people.
No, he wasn't working on it.
He was just the connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Stan put us in touch with this thing, and we went to them, and they said, well, how much do you want for it? And we said, whatever you want to pay, because we just wanted to have a printed comic. Yeah. And they said, okay. And so we did, I think it was a story about Tesla.
Huh.
And how I don't know.
There's a delicious irony in you testing this technology on a book about Tesla.
Yeah. So we did a little thing about Tesla that was like a comic book insert for something. I don't know where it went or anything. I did at the time, but it's a long time ago. So we did that, and then we had the thing, and we looked at it, and when they were printing it out, there was a problem. And the problem was that the presses that they were running on were not as good as the presses that we had done our sample on. And there was a registration problem. And we had to, which was good, so we went back and we said, we got to fix this up and that. And
because the registration problem, this is just when the colors and the line art don't line up directly. This is for the listeners' benefit. And that is a problem that is solvable, right? That's why you said this is good.
Yeah. So so we were able to work on that, but we also had another problem, which I knew how to solve because of my work on blue line stuff. And back then, when we were doing the colors in that, we didn't know about a trap. I'm not sure how many people know what a trap is.
So if I understand it correctly, it's the place in which the color overlaps the black line, so that if it slides, the registration slides a little bit, you still get that full color.
But more to the point, it's putting a color underneath the blacks. And I learned,
I see.
Yes,
Okay.
and I learned about that when I was doing blue line painting, because if you just painted the white areas and assumed that where the black was going to be, that it would stay solid.
You'd miss a little.
No, it wouldn't miss. It would be gray where there wasn't color underneath. So if you painted, if you painted Wolverine jumping out and you painted his arms and that, but he had a big black shadow on his arm, well, the edge of the black that you painted into would be a nice juicy black.
Solid black.
But then there'd
Be a
be
gray
a gray
blotch.
blotches in the blacks.
Oh, I have so many books like that. Yeah.
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 So we worked out how to fix that, and then we went and showed the work to Marvel in DC, and Marvel was like, come back when you have real work, sort of thing, and
Right.
and don't bother me, kid.
Right.
But Bob Razakis at DC went to bat and said, this would be really good for this book that Lovern has been coloring for a while. I was coloring a book called Legion at the time.
So hold on. So while you're trying to innovate a new entire way of coloring, you're also working for Marvel in DC.
Yes.
In the traditional coloring model.
Yeah, and the bande dessinée. So I was doing traditional color, as well as some jobs where I was painting, with airbrush and.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Tell us. Sorry, I derailed you, but I just can't do half of the skills that you have described so far, right? Without a computer, and so I'm a little bit in awe.
Oh, try doing the cut film sometime.
I've done that, so I have.
You did the
I've
Ruby
done
cut
some
film?
film like that
Hand
Ruby
separations?
stuff and hand separations. I've done some of that. I
Crazy,
am in
eh?
absolute. I hold the screen printing world in a very high esteem that hangs on and produces these.
So you've worked with a swivel knife.
Yes.
I love
and
those things.
But it's been a long time. And what all of those experiences have in common for me is it proved that I wasn't any good at it. I don't have the disposition. There's a fortitude, grit that comes with having to be so precise when the end has to look free. And I have a lot of trouble containing my excitement to wait.
I would suggest lithography then.
Is that the one?
Yeah.
That's even slower. Thank you.
No, it's a different. It's the same idea, but it's a different thing. I actually didn't start with the hand separations. I started doing phony lithography on aluminum plates, where I was a printer at Bristol Aerospace, and they did. Most of it was straightforward forms and whatever the government wanted, but they also did newsletters, and they wanted to do a fancy newsletter at Christmas. And I said, I can hand separate it for you, and we can do a beautiful border, with Christmas colors and all of that. And the way I did it was with, because I was operating the entire printing procedure at there, I drew the border in ink, and then I went in and laid tissue paper over it and colored in with a black pencil the tints. And then I went in and shot it in line shot, and then I stripped it together and was able to print it and do the hand separations on my little addressograph multigraph printer there. And once I did that, they were like, oh, we could do like 4 of those a year because there's this and this, and we could do Halloween. And
So do you think we should spend a month using only these types of techniques here at the studio?
I don't think he wants to spend a minute.
He doesn't even like hearing that it's how it used to be done.
He's brilliant, but a little weird.
So when you were in graphic design,
We talked about like typesetting and stuff like that, and like to a lesser degree, like we went over this kind of stuff. So I knew
you knew that it had been done.
I had an inkling, yeah. But even like
did they show you stuff and let you work with it, like old handset slugs and stuff?
No, not so much. Like we saw pictures of it or whatever, but we never had to.
Oh, that's too bad.
Never got any hands on.
Yeah.
Which I think I'm okay with. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh no, you would just to mess around with it, to set something up in that. I'm sure you would have enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
Especially, this is alchemy. Hot metal typesetting. It's like a giant. Imagine a giant machine that's got a vat of molten metal in it, and it's got all these little roots up in that, and you've got these columns full of these little slugs. And what they do is actually you have a big keyboard like a typewriter, and you type out whatever, Royal Bank or whatever it is. And when you type that R, an R thing drops down and comes into here, and the hot metal shoots into it, and it makes that R.
I want one.
So you can
it's-
type it all
It's
up.
making the individual like metal letters like
Yeah.
as you're typing.
Pouring it in
Yeah.
molten
So you're
metal.
not setting them up by hand. You're
Right.
creating. Oh my god,
That's so cool.
that is pretty cool.
I got to put that in a story somewhere. Oh my gosh.
Sounds
How do I
incredibly-
look up more about that? What's that called? I'm making a note.
There's a great story with Ray Walston that was Outer Limits, maybe. I think it was called The Printer's Devil,
All right.
and you get to see him working one of those machines in that.
That's cool.
Oh, I'm so excited by that. Okay, we got far afield. I still want to know,
Sorry.
when did you? No, it's my fault because I'm a nerd. Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone. Yeah. Thank you, producer Dan. When did it happen? When did you bring the right sample?
Bob Rozakis gave us a shot, and we had one book, and they said, you are going to be looked at under a microscope, but do this, and we can do all kinds of stuff. And Bob Rozakis was like, I know you can do this. I'm counting on you. And we got, I can't remember what number it was, but an issue that I was coloring already. And I colored it. We did it all on computer, and we generated the film. And the film was, I didn't realize at that time, but the film was the deal breaker. And we generated the film, and we put it into a huge envelope and sent it off to Montreal, because all the comics in the world almost were being
Right.
printed in Montreal.
Yeah,
at
what was the name
time.
of that big printer?
Ronald's.
Ronald's, yeah.
It's owned by Quebecor now.
Yeah, Quebecor.
Yeah. So Ronald's got the film, set it up, printed the book, and it looked great. And Ronald's then contacted DC and said, that is the best film that we have seen from any of your other suppliers. That is the best.
And that was on. That
and then
wasn't like
DC
because you flew out there and bought them lunch. That was like their.
No. It was the people we were working with at Image Color. The guys that were actually first we were working at BW Type. So BW Type, the guys that were setting the film up there with their machines, that were they were like our half brothers. We were in the same building.
Right.
And the guy who owned that company was investing in us in that. They were really, really good. So the film they generated was the best. And so, bang, they said, we'll give you this book. And so what we had was one book.
Do you remember
And
the title of that book? What
Legion.
It was Legion.
Yeah, it was Legion.
Yeah, right.
89.
Okay. But you don't know which issue number?
I have it up on my wall. I look at
people
it every
wanting to
day,
hunt-
so
yeah.
I can't remember it.
Yeah.
I think it's 26.
Yeah. Who did the line work for that? Do you know?
That was Barry Kitson, and
That is a Kitson book.
yeah, and I think it was Mike DiCarlo was inking it, but I'm not 100%. Because I know that Barry and Mike started on it, but at some point, Barry, I think, took over the inks.
So you landed it.
No. No, you would think, no, we have this.
I thought this was the happy ending part
No,
of the
no,
story.
but that was it. That was the worm on the hook. Before we didn't have a worm on the hook, so we were getting nothing. So we put that out, and we did some work from that, and we talked to Marvel about it, and they were still not interested. And we talked about maybe doing other books at DC, and DC said, yeah, it's so good, and production's giving you the okie doke, and this is great. So we were talking about other DC books and that. And then I got a call from Jim Lee. Actually, first I think I talked to Todd McFarlane, and then talked to Jim Lee, and Jim said, can you guys come out? Like, I don't want to talk anything about this and that, but we'd like to have a meeting with you.
We don't want to talk over the phone. Babe.
Yeah, it was funny,
Yeah.
eh? But so we went out to Orange County to where Rob Liefeld had his studio there, and Jim was there, and we talked to them, and they said, we saw what you did on the Legion Annual, and on the Legion Annual, it had come in, and it was a big book, and it was done by Mike McComb, and it was gorgeous, and there was a lot of metallic creatures in that, and I was like, okay, we're going to do a little bit more. And at this point, I was still coloring it, and then I was still doing guides and giving them to the people that were working on the machines, because there wasn't anybody that was trained as a colorist there except like Christopher and I.
And so, hold on, this would have been before Image Comics formed.
Yep.
This is them knowing that their properties are going to have so many characters with metal arms, right? That they need to have some. They're looking at that and seeing like, oh, here's the textures that we need that aren't being done anywhere else.
Right.
Can it be done? If we're going to launch this company, can it look the way we imagine it can look?
Todd had already made a deal with Steve Olaf to do all the Spawn stuff and that, and Steve Olaf was still using a vector-based program to color the early Spawn stuff and that. They were drawing thousands of polygons per page to do that kind of that work that back then, which was, and nobody was doing that. And we were working in Photoshop, so we were getting beautiful airbrush in that. And so there was we probably would have been doing everything at Image, but there were some people that had biases about what they wanted in that. And so Todd had his bias, so he wanted Steve doing his work. And Steve's a brilliant colorist. He does painted work too. And Steve would have been happy to do painted color on that, but
Some of the history of comics
Todd
is
wanted
also
the
a
computer.
history of loyalty to your team also, right? Keeping
Something
certain
like
people
that.
around.
Yeah. But it wasn't. But I don't think Steve was part of Todd's team at that time.
Right.
He was just looking for a certain thing, and they both were like, "This is the latest stuff, so we want to work with the computers to make it cutting edge." And so when we got the stuff from them and the work we did on it, the first Image books came out. Well, then we got calls from Marvel and DC saying, "Oh, how come like?"
Well, because the first Image books lit the direct market on fire.
Oh yeah, and remember the way they looked, the detail and the painting. And
I know. I have a full set of those number ones.
So,
yeah.
but I'm sorry, I neglected to mention that when we did when I was coloring Legion, when we first had it in to do at Digital Chameleon, we had been told that we had to keep it flat, and they really wanted to reserve graduations for stuff like the sky or maybe some clouds and that, and they didn't want us going nuts painting it. They wanted it to still stay flat because they were really concerned that if we overpainted it and that and made it look like a full painted cover, like that much detail, which was what we were doing on every page of the image books, they thought that the audience might be put off and sales might be affected. So their
can't
safe
change
was like,
too much too quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we went nuts on the image books, we got the thing from editors at DC saying, "How come you're not doing that on my book?" Well, talk to production. If they take the handcuffs off, we will. And so that's when it just blew open.
Something should have happened by now.
I can remember standing in a comic store with some of the first, I'm just a young lad, we don't have to do the math, when some of the first image books are coming out and people looking through them. I legitimately remember the guy stocking the shelves, putting the big bundles of the image number ones in, and freaking kids, teenagers, adults all piling around to pull them off and oohing and awing at how different they looked from other books.
Yeah.
And I can distinctly remember a single comment that exchanged, which is like just hits me like a lightning bolt right now. How do they look so different? Someone says. And the guy running the store says, "Oh, it's all young guys. They're doing everything different. They're doing everything new." But that's completely untrue in a sense. It was people who understood all the old printing technology.
Yeah.
Right? Not leaving it behind, but leveraging that knowledge to do something new. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the fallacy. Like when you see a new thing happen, like when you're like, "Oh, this is how it is now," you assume that there's some brand new genius, right, who has set the world on fire.
Who ignored everything that came before and did something completely different.
That's right.
When it's not that at all.
No, someone needs to know how it did work in order to understand there was a better way to do it or a different way to do it.
Oh, I mean, we were standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
That's
like,
how we could reach so high.
you know, we use Photoshop, right? We didn't design that program, right? We maybe use it in different ways than other people will use it, but we're also standing up on all those, like the history of all the millions of moving parts that had to go into innovating the technologies that we use today that we take for granted on a regular basis. I think it's important to pause once in a while and remember that once you could push a typewriter key and a molten letter would appear.
Oh, yeah.
We need to look this machine up and see how it works.
Get one, maybe. You were talking about getting a pinball machine. I'd rather have a molten metal typesetter.
I think that if you had that molten metal typesetter, that you could make a fortune just setting people's names up in that. It's like a
Like
also,
those baby name keychains, but in molten metal.
no, but it's like the back of the way it's set up in that it has to go into a rotogravure press, like an old Heidelberg or something like that, and it has to be set up and in a lot of cases, think about Gutenberg.
Yeah.
How he would have a big tray, and you'd set the stuff in the tray, and then you put it up line by line, and then it would have to be cranked so that it wouldn't move because you had to run it through a press.
Yeah. And
Well,
everything I
so-
know about the Gutenberg press, you just explained it right there. That's like the limit
Yeah.
of my knowledge. But
Oh, okay.
okay, so let's leap forward into the distant future from Digital Chameleon. You're writing comics, you're coloring comics for the big 2, big 3, big 5, however many companies you want to call right now. What's your new thing? What's going on? What's the thing you're most excited about now for yourself in comics? And I'm looking at my little notes about reminding me to remind you to tell us about Necromantic.
Necromantic is something that I'm writing, and it's coming out from the same people that are publishing Shame. And it's being
Shame the graphic novel, not the concept for the
Right.
dear listener. Yeah.
and now they're publishing Hope, which is the next trilogy. There'll be 3 of them, and don't ask me what the third one is because I haven't.
You have
I've
to
got
write
a
it
working name, but I'm not going to use that.
Okay, so tell us about Necromantic.
Necromantic is almost done. This is a really different sort of thing, whereas it's going to be a mini series of stories, and they're all going to be done before we go to press. and we might not be going to press. I believe it'll be coming out digitally first, and then after sales of that, then we will probably do a collected book.
And this
But
is through
don't
Renegade
hold me
Arts
to that.
Entertainment?
Yeah.
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 Alexander, we need the info.
Hmm.
When's it coming out and how?
Like right now, we're 6 pages away from finished color, and then I believe the lettering has started in that, but I haven't seen proofs yet of it.
Now, is Necromantic the book where I don't remember if it's the penciler or the inker, one of them was a storyboard artist on Game of Thrones. Is this that project?
No,
That's a
no,
different
that's
project.
VMT.
That's VMT. Oh, man. You have too many books. I can't keep them all track.
Well, VMT, I'm just doing the color on. Will Simpson is writing and penciling and inking it.
So Necromantic, give us the pitch. What's the slug line for Necromantic?
The slug line for Necromantic. It's what if Medium was James Bond and met The Walking Dead?
Okay. All right. And as I recall, because I've seen some of the original pages of that, it's basically a haunted man, right?
No, it's
No?
a haunted woman.
Haunted woman. Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, the main character in Necromantic is a woman who's working for the agency, and she is a spy, and she has a relationship with a guy who is a spec ops, works for, the kind of soldiers that the United States
Like
would.
the Blackwater guys.
No, Blackwater isn't military.
Right.
No, this is like the guys that they sent out to hunt down Bin Laden or the latest guy, and they're usually picked from Navy SEALs and stuff like that, and they don't have names, and nobody knows who they are. They go back to their job, and they don't talk about what they did and stuff like that. So they're spec ops or speed operators, stuff like that.
You have some shows like that, Justin. You come back, you just don't talk about what you did there.
I don't want people to know how good they were.
And so complications ensue.
Yeah, I mean they're in love, and he gets killed, but that's not the end of the romance.
Dun, dun, dun. Necromantic. You're also working on a book with Craig Russell and Neil Gaiman. You're doing
Yes.
colors on. Are you allowed to talk about this project? You think so?
I haven't. I'm sure I can't show the work, but I believe I can talk about it.
Right.
It's Craig is doing an adaptation of Norse mythology, the book that
Right.
Neil wrote.
Which he calls his accidental bestseller.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, his accidental bestseller. And can you talk at all about when it's coming out or where people can find it? Is that stuff is that still under wraps?
That I can't talk about, but we're doing there'll be a little preview of it on Free Comic Books Day.
No, you've worked with Neil and Craig on lots of projects.
Yes.
And I have a set of I think they're color separation guides that you gave me as a gift for some work. I'm trying to remember on which one it was, but a Neil Gaiman's Craig Russell page. But your relationship with them goes all the way back to hand separating.
Yeah, I first met Neil back in 1988 at UCAC. And I talked to him a little bit then, but he actually was I can't remember if he was the president or something like that of the Society of Strip Illustrators in England. And I got a letter from Neil inviting me to come and appear at the comic book convention there, but also to do a workshop for the strip illustrators. And they were really interested then in the technology of the color because in Europe they weren't doing color that way. It was more blue line painting and that.
Yeah, I'm actually. Did it take longer to catch on in Europe? I imagine there's like a history of artistry and artisan.
It was odd. It was some places grabbed it up pretty quickly, but other places were staying with the blue line because, if you had someone like Jean-Giraud Mobius doing a piece for you, do you want him to just color it on a flat, which was the first stuff that was coming out on a computer, like like American comics, or do you want to stay with him doing his incredible painted airbrush work and that? So they would say, well, when you can make your computer stuff look like a painting by Mobius, then come back and talk to us.
Yeah. When did that happen? When did you guys realize? Was there a moment where you're like, wait a minute, we did it? Like, it's working.
When Mobius contacted me about working for him.
That's a mic drop moment. Yeah. Please don't throw our microphones on the ground, but I think that's a mic drop moment.
What else could they believe? The truth? That he died and came back? We did it, Dan.
What is it like to be so often uncredited in work that people know so well, as the colorist is so often?
It's frustrating, but I mean it's not really horrible because you know that that's the way that things are going, so it's an accepted kind of standard in that. But occasionally you have to deal with people looking at the work and saying, oh, we really loved what Bob did on that artwork, the way he did this and all that. And you're sitting there looking at the fans' letter or email or talking to them at a convention, and they don't, a lot of people don't understand who's doing what. And so when they see that Bob drew it, they think that Bob colored it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And they think that Bob inked it. Yeah. So the inker's going, hey.
Yeah. But in a long career, you get to see people's reaction. In a way, so we did, in my misspent youth, I did an art show with Cal Barteski where it was a masquerade ball. So we got to walk around as people were attending in disguise and see people's reaction to work with them not knowing that we were the ones. Have you ever been present during an event like that where you see a reader respond to the work? I'm thinking of, can I say this? Some Animal Man work? We can edit that out if that'll get you into hot water. But There was a number of pages in that where you were basically finishing the art and then coloring it because of production line. But then I happen to know from the reviews, there were some great reviews about how the art looked. And I never saw your name mentioned, but I know you and I had seen what was going on. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been at a convention or with an editor where you want to just grab them by the lapels and say, actually, I'm the one that did that?
No, it's not worth it.
Not worth it. So what's your advice to a person who is feeling like credit is not being given or shared? Help us be chill about it.
But that is being changed. But until it's completely changed, that's going to happen. I mean, look what happened to Jack Kirby.
Right.
You know how the whole fight about what did Jack do, what did Stan do,
yeah.
What did Steve do, and that. And if you go out like I've been lucky to and sit down and to talk with guys like John Buscema and burn the midnight oil at the bar with hanging out with like Julie Schwartz and Gil Kane and hear a lot of the backstories and all that. Then when you hear all of that, you're going, wow, okay, that was okay. Like Stan did stuff on that, but that was Jack's show.
Yeah, it was Jack's show. Well, it's funny. Some of that is, we had this conversation when we first started doing Cassie and Tonk, and we did it on Rust and Water, and we'll do it on Dragon Nanny, where I'm credited as the writer, but I insisted that Justin's name go first as a creator before the writer's name, and then have him as the illustrator. So people know that I'm seeing the artwork, being inspired by that artwork, writing the story to the images. And that was, a lot of that stuff was my small way of saying, like, there has to be a change somehow, and there's no standard for how we do it. And it messed up a couple of bookstores, got really kind of like, who did this book? Like they just can't accept a paradigm that people would share credit.
I wonder if they have that problem with novels that are written by two writers.
Oh, they do. Yeah. Oh, they do. Well,
Everybody likes their little boxes.
Yeah, little boxes. This has been a very informative episode and a deep nerd dive into printing technology of super pulp science. Thank you so much, Lovern, for being with us. We hope to have you back. And Justin, don't worry. You can go back to working on your Cintiq so soon. Join the fight, everyone, and make comics.